All right.
Internet is down.
Hello, everybody. We are live now. It's only two of us. So if anyone's interested in joining, please let me know and I'll send you a link. We had Chris. Oh, this thing, the live says for tomorrow. Oh, shoot. I should probably change the. Well, it's live now, so we're live. I must have scheduled it for tomorrow. Chris was supposed to be here, and Chris is doing adult things, aka he's at a brothel right now, and therefore he decided to not be with us. And so, Chris is doing what Chris has got to do. Me and Steven are a lot more responsible, and we're not spending our nights out doing those types of things. So we're here doing Palantir Weekly. Steve, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. No, guys, I'm just kidding. Chris's internet is down apparently, so he can't join us. But me and Steven are here. A lot of Palantir news this week. We're gonna get into all of it. Oh, hold on. Something just joined my stream.
What's up, guys?
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Chris, where you at, buddy?
Sorry, dude. My internet's all jacked up, so it's just gonna be voice. I hope I don't get cut off because I'm running this through like cell phone. So.
Wait, are you at the airport or are you at your crib?
No, I'm at home.
Okay, so you're just on the phone. Okay. Yeah, I think you should be hopefully fine if you're just on the phone. It should be okay. All right. Well, we got a lot of news to get into. First of all, Steve, it's been a while. Palantir, we haven't talked about it in the new year yet. Tesla has gone up a little bit since we did our video. So the valuations might kind of be all over the place. The market in general is up, and it's kind of weird why the market's up, but nonetheless, it's up. Palantir closed over 7 multiple times this week. I think it ended under 7, but it had a decent week. Davos Summit, World Economic Forum, Karp was there, did 2 interviews, talked about a lot of stuff. So let's start off with this CNBC Karp interview. We all watched it, 11 minutes. Steve, what was your best takeaway from that interview?
That Karp drew me in as a happy shareholder, and then he just slapped me in the face.
Interesting. Okay. How did he slap you in the face?
I mean, the interview he gave with Andrew Ross Sorkin was great, I thought. When he did whatever fireside chat he was doing, when one of the CEOs from South Korea, I believe, came on stage to ask him questions, he acted like a CEO that I was basically appalled by.
What? That's your take on this?
Yeah, I think that he needs a real serious PR rep. And I understand what he was trying to say, but his delivery was absolutely horrible. You don't say that we are incredibly expensive, even if you're joking. You just don't say those things, because small and medium-sized businesses could get turned off. And there are other ways, if the software is that expensive, there are other ways to make money on it, not just subscription fee. And it's not the first time that he has said our software is expensive.
Okay, so Chris, let me dig into this a little bit. I think this is a horrible take. This is just not a good take. If the software is expensive, why would you lie about it?
Why would you publicize it? Why would you brag about it?
What do you mean? Because people are paying for a reason.
People pay for lots of softwares for a reason.
And all of those softwares are shit, which is why the guy came up to him and he said,
That's an
no,
opinion.
No, it's not an opinion. Wait, hold on. This is not my
sir.
opinion. This is first of all, let's watch this exchange again, just so people.
Well, we don't have to watch. I'm sure everybody's watched a bunch.
People might not know that what we're talking about. And then I want to talk about what Gary Tan said. I don't know if you know who Gary Tan is, but we should look at his commentary as well.
I'm David Kim from Korea. I'm a chairman of Daesun Group, which is one of the largest energy company in Korea. As a CEO, I've been dealing with many software companies and consulting companies, and I have always been very disappointed, especially not only because of the result, but also compared to the price they charge for me. And I Googled and tried to find the mission and vision of your company, and frankly speaking, too good to be true what is said in Google.
Well, let me tell you, since we have limited time, we have a great partners in Korea. You are right to be disappointed by software. Almost all software is either a PowerPoint or something disappointing. We live from people like you.
Okay, so the question I have is, how do you price your service?
And I'll tell you, we're very expensive. You know why we're very expensive? Because someone like you is greatly skeptical and think it'll be not valuable. And when we show you it's very valuable, we expect you to pay us a lot of money.
Okay, right here.
We're not cheap. And part of the problem is the people that are selling you their software cheaply are selling you a PowerPoint.
Okay, so Gary Tan, I just want to go to him real quick. Gary Tan, do you know who he is, Steven?
Never heard of him.
Okay, Gary
I
Tan.
know who he is. He's an early employee of Palantir. He was one of the first.
He was one of the first employees of Palantir. He designed the logo for Palantir, the current logo that we have right now. And his take was a masterclass in enterprise sales. By the way, Gary Tan also founded Initialize, which is one of the biggest venture VC funds in Silicon Valley. And now he's the president of Y Combinator. So this guy, who is literally worth billions, is saying this was a masterclass in enterprise sales. And your take is that Karp said the software was too expensive to a guy who has been failed by other softwares in the past, meaning sales 101, it looks like he's willing to pay a little bit more for something that will actually fix his problems. You're saying that was the wrong take. That's your argument.
He could have went about a much different way and said to him, you're not the first person that has approached us about this unique problem, and come to the Palantir tent because they had a exhibit there, and we'll give you a private showing and we'll show you what we can do for you and how we can supersede all the other platforms that have failed you. Don't discuss price on something that's going to be televised and say that, because it's not just about large companies that can pay millions of dollars. You need to get the small, medium-sized businesses also. And it's a complete turnoff to companies when they hear that. And we all know what he was trying to say, that you pay for what you get for. He could have went about it in a different way.
I get your point, obviously, because a lot of companies are probably watching him speak at this forum. I just think in that moment, there are certain things that
Just think about this. You're running a business and you're considering Palantir, and then you hear that on a live broadcast. What are the first things that go through your mind if you already haven't spoken to the team?
First of all, I think, wait a second, why is this guy with crazy hair talking about every other software being a PowerPoint? Like, that metaphor is like killer. And I think and I think if I'm a CEO of a company that has data management issues and nothing's working, at some level, you're like, yeah, I agree with him. It is a PowerPoint. And then he says, well, we're a little bit more expensive because we give you 10,000 times better than a PowerPoint.
He didn't say a little bit more expensive.
Okay, a lot more expensive. As a CEO, my job is to get the job done. My job is not always to get the job done at the cheapest price, because at the cheapest price, the job might not get done, which means long-term my company. I mean, that's just the whole point of Palantir software, right? So I see your point. I just think it was a beautiful moment where he said, look, you've been failed historically. That guy's the CEO of a relatively big company for being at that conference. He's asking the CEO of another multi-billion-dollar company a very important question. And Karp's saying it. I would imagine Karp gets into sales calls with these C-suite executives and he says the exact same thing. I don't think Karp says, oh, you can pay as you. I think Karp says, no, we're expensive. And I think that actually turns people on, because that means they're paying for something premium. Like, I don't. Chris, any thoughts on this?
Yeah. Do me a favor. I sent a link on our private chat, like right there. Just play that part and go to 28 minutes in. 28 minutes and 19 seconds in.
28:19. Okay.
Just play that.
Okay, here we go.
Example of that comes to mind in your career?
Oh, numerous. I mean, like in software, obviously, I mean, things go bump in the night. That's just the nature of the physics of systems and software, and people can get extraordinarily upset. It's disruptive, reputational risk. I mean, all these kinds of things, right? So what you do at that moment in time, how you react and respond to that, is really important. I remember a situation with a CIO once who was irate with me. It was a very large pharma, and he called me up and reaming me out because he had double overspent by 100% his professional services budget. And, he felt it was our fault. Well, we went through the whole process, right? Instead of saying, look, you did this to yourself, I said, look, we're going to credit it back to you. Okay. And the guy just got quiet on the other side of the phone, He's like, what? It's like, we're just going to credit it back to you. I didn't say like, you really did it, or, no, we're just going to credit it back to you. Says, I don't want you to be in this state of mind. From that point on, he became the biggest advocate, the strongest advocate, I'd ever have. All he wanted to do is help us every step of the way. Did it cost us money? Yes. But, they felt like, we had their back, even though it wasn't even our fault. It didn't matter,
You know what it reminds me of?
Okay, Chris.
So I think it's important that you have to have customer alignment, right? So if you have a person coming to you saying, look, I have a problem with software because I can't find value in it and the pricing that I'm getting is too high. The way that I would have approached it, especially from a sales perspective, would have been, hey, we can talk about pricing later. The first thing we want to do is figure out how we're going to be able to generate you savings so that when we do come at you with the price, it'll make a lot more sense. Let us build the value first before we talk about price.
How is that literally not?
No.
You got does he need to spell it out like you guys are like babies? How is he not saying, hey,
no,
you're gonna save a fuck ton of money if you
Amit, right now, imagine yourself, you walk into a car dealership, right? They say, hi, how are you? And you're like, hi, I'm looking for a car. All the other cars around here, the dealers are really expensive. And then guess what the dealer says to you? Well, we're expensive too. That's what happened.
Well, why would I go to that dealership in the first place if I didn't know they were expensive? Like,
I'm not going
to Mercedes if I can't afford it.
But that's the point, that this is not the kind of stuff that people don't even know.
Wait, so you want Mercedes to convince me that they're better than Honda and I shouldn't pay a premium?
No, that's not the point. The point is the first thing you do is get them in the door and then you upsell them on the stuff that you want. You don't, like, if you go to Mercedes, they don't just tell, oh yeah, this is way out of your price range. This is a very expensive car. They don't start with that. They say, look, sit in the car. Let's talk about this. Let's see how we can work with you to finance this Mercedes. That's how you sell the car. That's how you sell the software. You get the customer to the point where they can build value, and then you can capitalize in the future.
Chris, I agree with Austin's comment. Tiptoeing around pricing when you have literally the most expensive software product on earth would be sleazy bullshit tactic. If you tell me I go into Mercedes and the salesman is like, yeah, and then he warms me up and then he's like, yeah, by the way, it's $70,000. And I'm like, bro, I don't have that money. Like, how is that not the most awkward? Like, what? I'm going to finance a $70,000 car? No, I can't afford that. So I don't get why we're tipping around Palantir sells expensive software. Do they need to attack mid-sized? 1,000%. I agree. But in that moment with that CEO, he's not going to say, hey, yeah, we'll help you finance the product. He's like, no, we're expensive because we're good. I think if anything, that's inspiring.
In that scenario, you don't even need to discuss pricing. That's the point.
But the guy asked.
And without knowing anything about what that company's problems are in that moment, Karp should have went about it differently, invited him back to the tent to look at the software, discuss the needs, and build something out for him and discuss it. There's multiple ways for Palantir to do this. And one of the different models that can be done, if the software is very expensive, which it is, you don't have to charge full for the subscription. You can also do a percentage of what it saves you on expenses. Like, there's 100%. Multiple ways to skin a cat.
I agree. And I feel like if they get into a serious sales call, like that guy actually gets into touch with Palantir, all of that will come into fruition. But at that moment, that is a pound the table type of moment. I'm going to make a statement. It's not like a real sales negotiation.
And you lost a whole segment of customers that could have possibly wanted to work with you.
Yes, you did.
You
100%.
inspired a bunch of people that are using PowerPoints.
But once again, Karp doesn't even know what software the guy's using. Has no clue.
Steve, it doesn't matter. The guy says he's been failed by every software. He says, I Googled you guys and I could not believe it because it was too good to be true. Does this sound like a guy you need to really convince? No, it's like he's warm. All you got now, you got to close the deal. And he was like, oh, we're expensive. And it's too good to be. It's actually less sleazy saying it's expensive, because when someone says it's too good to be true, what they're asking subliminally is what's the catch? And the catch, Karp accurately pointed out, was that we're expensive. That is the catch. And like that now it makes sense. Oh, it's too good to be true, but it's expensive. So now the guy as a CEO, he has to make a decision. Am I willing to pay that premium? Because I believe it's too good to be true. But if I'm paying that premium and it's actually that good, holy crap.
I find it so funny that they go from having to pay these companies for SPACs just to get in there to now all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, we're super expensive. Bro, you were throwing money at clients so they would use your product less than 6 months ago. And all of a sudden now the bottom line is the only thing that matters. Come on, Amit, please.
Well, I agree with you. The SPACs, and we'll talk about him admitting they messed up on SPACs. But on this point, I really don't get both of your arguments at all. Like, I'm trying to understand it, but in at that moment, in 30 seconds, you have like a nice little rock star salesmanship type of piece. It's not a real negotiation. And I think you set a precedent. I think it was cool. It made me happy as a shareholder. I liked it.
It's not what needs to be broadcasted. I'm bringing up the slide deck right now because I don't remember off the top of my head the different deal sizes.
Yeah, and and while you're doing that, they introduced payment pay for by usage. I mean, they introduced a lot of things that are a little bit more friendlier to smaller businesses, and I think they will in the future. That's if they have to do that to scale. But in that moment, that's one of those moments you have as a CEO where you get a really awkward question asked in a very awkward way, and you have to capitalize on that. And I think he capitalized in the right way.
No, he totally failed on that. Sorry.
He completely failed.
Let me put a poll in the chat. Let's have the chat decide.
Completely failed. And here's why. The CEO from Tyson did an excellent job of showing why Palantir and how Palantir saved them a ton of money and made their operations seamless. The vote of confidence from top line CEOs from Tyson Foods to BP to Kinder Morgan is there.
So then what's the issue? If we know that Tyson saved money and they paid what they paid for the software, why is Karp not allowed to say, hey, it's
Karp's
expensive?
allowed to say whatever he wants. It's the way he came off was absolutely cocky. And a lot of people know or have the perception that Palantir software is great. I believe all of us do. But there was no need to discuss price. He could have went about it in a much different way and put on a much different show and been the CEO that takes a personal interest, brings the person back and says, I will personally show you the demo and we can discuss your needs and we can tailor something to you. And then we can send you the pricing and set up the calls. He could have went about much differently.
That's the most boring thing I've ever heard. In a 30-second, we'll let you know. We'll exchange numbers, and then I'll get your Twitter handle. Like that's so boring.
That's right there. He could have brought him there and showed him the software and did a personalized demo.
First of all, I think they did invite him. I think they did invite that guy, if I understand correctly from some of the tweets I saw, to the villa afterwards. But regardless of that, in those 30 seconds, for him to say, "Oh, well, let's get your number. We'll talk to you afterwards," versus, "No, we're expensive because we're not a PowerPoint." I mean, like, which one? Please tell me which one is cooler and which one inspires
PowerPoint. What softwares are a PowerPoint? He doesn't even know which ones he's using.
But that doesn't matter.
Like, you can't make that statement.
Yes, you can. Like, if a guy says, I've been failed by software over and over again, and Karp has heard the story 1 trillion times, which is why they've gotten all the deals they've gotten, then I pretty confidently if someone tells me, hey, I'm uploading my podcast to Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, I'm uploading everywhere and I'm getting no traction, I would be like, because you're uploading it into a graveyard. I don't even need to know where you're uploading it. I know what's the problem. Those aren't recommendation engines. I have a better solution. Like I know my.
Yeah, but you didn't start with it's expensive. You're like, oh yeah, idea is great, but it's expensive. So just be ready.
Because it's a different product. It's a content. It's like free. Obviously, it's social media versus like software. But nonetheless, if Audia for example, if you're a struggling podcaster getting 0 listens and our deal costs $5 a month, but we introduce you to, let's say, millions of listeners that could organically find you. And I was like, yeah, it's 500% more expensive than what you're paying right now, which is 0, $5 a month, but it's worth it. And you're going to pay because you're going to get a ton of listeners on your content. Like you would be like, well, I'm going to think about that. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm turned off. Like, no, you're going to be like, well, it's going to solve my problem, which is I want my podcast to get heard, and it's not happening anywhere else. And so Karp has heard this a trillion times from Hertz, from BP, from Tyson, from all these guys. And he's like, yeah, all the software you're using is legacy crap that's not getting the job done. We are solving shit with the CDC. We are defending the UK. We are working with the UK Ministry of Defense. Our shit works.
Bro, you sound so animated right now. Like Palantir's your personal love child. No, for me, the way that I'm telling you, the way that he should have addressed it is just very simple. Our goals are aligned with our customers. We will do everything we can to align our goals and your goals, and we can talk about the pricing after. The first goal should be to create a happy customer. Then
Chris,
you can give the price.
He asked, how much does it cost? The guy said, is it expensive? Or the guy basically asked the question.
Doesn't mean you have to go on national TV and say we are very expensive.
And you're saying you don't have to do that because you think a majority of the population will be turned off because they'd rather pay less money
the
for
population.
software. That's what you think people want to do.
The population doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is people that are in the position to make decisions.
So why would C-suite executives want to hear bullshit? Because what you're saying is he should have said bullshit. It is bullshit.
Not bullshit.
To say that we'll talk about the pricing later for whatever reason, because even though it is expensive, versus directly answering the guy and having like a type of moment. You think C-suites are going to be more turned on than what he did, or they're going to be like, oh yeah, it's the same thing every CEO says. We'll talk about pricing later. I mean, I don't know, guys. I don't see your argument for this. I really don't.
Being on the other end, you know what I do for a living, being on the other end of it and doing large deals with many of these companies, the last thing I want to hear as the very first thing is we are extremely expensive. It's the last thing I want to hear.
But Steve, real quick, Steve, if you have a problem and the thing is expensive because it solves your and nothing else solves it, let's assume that, because it seems like the guy said he tried everything and it wasn't working. You're not even entertaining the call because it's very expensive.
That's not what I said.
So then
it's the last thing I want. It's the last thing I want to hear as the very first thing.
But sometimes the last thing you want to hear is like, for example, I don't take out the trash sometimes. And it's the last thing I want to hear when my mom complains about me not taking it. But sometimes I have to hear it because we got to take out the trash. You know what I mean? Like, and we got to take out the trash with all these PowerPoints and bring in the recycling bin, which is Palantir that can be used over and over again. You get my point? You get my vibe?
If the software is $10 million and it can save you 50 or 100 million, it's well worth it. But you don't lead with "we are very expensive."
Yeah, and Amit,
you don't know what value can be put into the company.
You don't know what's expensive to this person, how much they're spending anyway.
Exactly. Like everybody's interpretation is different. And
yeah, like is $10 expensive, or is $100,000 expensive, or this is a multi-billion-dollar company? Okay, I'm sure that they have a pretty big spend on IT. Like this is not a small company, but right there, shooting from the hip. This is what's his Karp did. Oh, this is an expensive this is an expensive software. Bro, you don't know how much I have to spend. You don't know anything about what I can spend, what I can't spend. Yet you already just start with, oh, we're expensive. What does expensive even mean, to be honest with you?
And it may not matter for that CEO, but it probably does matter for many other companies that thought about contacting Palantir. Maybe they have a different notion in their head now, and they're going to contact a Snowflake or somebody else.
But okay, so your argument is that first of all, I don't even get how you guys have been in sales for a long time. There is something around reverse psychology that all of us know. We want what we can't get. So if someone says
no,
yes,
we
at the
end of the day we can write a check and we get what we want. Reverse psychology does not work in that situation.
Well, no, I think personally, I think that if a CEO says, "Hey, we're expensive, but we get the job done," you are not more turned on. You are like, I'm not even going to entertain the conversation.
No, I want to see how you get the job done. I want to see that it's going to work. I want to see what added value is going to be brought.
So you don't think there's a little bit more of and again, in those 30 seconds, we're talking about something very specific. He can't say all of that, right? He has to say like 1 or 2 sentences. They have to move on. You're saying there's no allure to saying, yeah, we're expensive. You don't think that CEO is going home saying, hey, I want to schedule a call and see, first of all, how expensive are they? And can they, and maybe it's in my budget, and can they get the job done? And am I willing to pay the premium?
Zero.
It's
not about being willing to pay a premium. There's zero allure or zero upside to saying that.
Wait, Stephen. If the thing that you're paying a premium for solves your problem, and the reason it hasn't been solved is because you've been getting sold shitty software that
but
does
you don't
not
know what companies he was in bed with.
We have to make some assumptions, right? Let's start with these assumptions. The guy has paid for, let's just assume he's paid for Snowflake. It hasn't worked. He finds Palantir. It looks like it's from heaven. He's like, holy crap, I got to get into it. The guy says it's expensive. You're saying that a problem this guy has not been able to solve could now, for example, I mean, like I was looking for a social media scheduling software. There's a trillion of them. There's a certain one I found the other day. I don't even think I told Chris about this. I told someone else about this. I found it like January 1st. It cost $500 per year. I paid it in 3 seconds because they had the correct API for the other application I was looking for. No other social media app had that API. $500 for the year, and I'm a very happy customer because that is something I've needed for like 5 months, and I finally
that's great. And look, Palantir
that
software
premium solved my problem. Is my
and
point.
I'm not saying that the premium won't solve the problem. The software could cost the guy $100 million, and if that's considered expensive, but it saves him the efficiency and time on the back end and monetary value, it's worth every penny. It's worth its weight in gold. But you don't lead with that because it just sends a negative message that we are expensive. Let the clients come to you, show them the added value that you can provide, and then they'll be willing to pay the price.
Okay, so let me ask you one more question.
Set the stage that they are extremely expensive.
You think
don't want to put that notion out there.
You're saying competent CEOs are going to be making a decision for their company based on one line said at Davos?
No, it's not a decision. It's Chris. Can you please help me with this?
Bro, I'm gonna come double teaming me, and I'm trying to hold.
Actually, all right. Let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on from that.
Let's move your address.
Let's move on from that. The next topic, and especially, was one other thing at Davos that he said that I wasn't a big fan of. Even though I have a military background, I don't like that he said, "Oh, we work with the military. If you don't like it, don't work for us." That's it. Like, just, dude, you're also limiting your talent pool. Be like, look, we have operations that work in the military, but there's also an arm that doesn't work with the military, that does well, that works on projects that are more aligned with the values of our employees. We give the employees an opportunity to work in whatever field that they want to. You know, just saying right out, well, we work with the military. If you don't like that, too bad. Go work for somebody else.
Chris, I'm starting to feel like the way I felt after Q2 earnings when I said they need to take the microphone away from him. He started having some good interviews over the past couple of months. And this week is just like, I never want this guy to speak again on public TV.
Okay. So again, I must defend the glory of this company that you guys are giving the ridiculous takes on.
Not about defending glory. We're all shareholders.
The company protects Ukraine, theoretically, given everything we know, from being destroyed by Russia with software. You're saying for a CEO that is leading that company to say, hey, by the way, we protect Western values. If you don't like that, get the hell out. You're saying that's a bad thing because that is going to distract the people that wanted to make the YouTube like button more optimized at Google and get paid $250,000 for that. You think those people were going to come to Palantir, but because of what Karp said, they're not coming to Palantir. That is your argument right now. Really. Chris, go ahead. Because go defend that argument, please. I'm willing to hear it.
No, the point is some people have objections to things like your personal values at the end of the day sometimes will stop you from doing certain things, right? Companies should be open to giving their employees options to work in whatever they like, and whatever they don't like, they don't have to be a part of. This is once again another reason why Palantir should split between government and commercial.
Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, would you work at Jules?
What the hell is Juuls?
Juuls is a vaping e-cigarette company. They're
No,
valued
I
at-
wouldn't.
Okay, all right. Hold on. So if the guy at Juuls, you heard him, first of all, let's say they're giving amazing salaries because they're trying to recruit, and he said in a talk, hey, we don't really care if kids get cancer from Juuls. We just think it's fun, and if you like it or leave it, you can stay, you can come or you can go. You would obviously feel, well, I don't really agree with that, so I'm not going to come. Now, if he somehow manipulated his words, like, actually, we're part of the new trend around smoking because it makes people cool, it has nothing to do with health, and he manipulated you into thinking it's a good thing to take that job, well, don't you think when you get in the company and you realize what they do, you would be disappointed? So why isn't it better for Karp to be like, hey, we're going to defend the West, which means if Trump gets back in office and he starts implementing ICE and we have to start working with them, like, you're not going to like us, so don't even join in the first place. You don't think it's better to be upfront about that?
No.
Why is that not
difference? There's a big difference between the two scenarios that you just said, dude. All right, there's a huge difference when it comes to employees. Even Karp will admit, because of some of the decisions that they made with ICE and all this other stuff, they lost a lot of good employees. So it goes right back into why the company needs to split between the government and the commercial. Where guess what? You want to work on the government projects, you want to defend the Western democracy, by all means, here you go. This is what you can do. On the other hand, if you want to figure out how to align satellites and what is that thing called? Solar panels and solar arrays so that you can save the earth by stopping climate change, you can join Gotham. I mean, not Gotham. You can join the Foundry,
okay, but
the commercial version.
Chris, let's say they don't do that. You still have a problem with Karp simply saying, hey, we protect Western values. If you don't like it, leave.
Yeah, I still have a problem with it because you're not supposed to outright come out and say outlandish things like "don't work for us."
Isn't Palantir already one of the hardest companies to get into? What?
Maybe it was in 2011. That's not the case anymore.
No,
right?
That is the case. I know a product designer that tried to get in 2 months ago and he got rejected in the third round. It's not an easy thing to get into Palantir. It's a very nice company. They pay very well. Stock-based compensation that we hate is up there. Like, I really don't get the argument at all. The guy, Google CEO, hey, we work on AI. If you don't like AI, if you think it's not ethical, don't work here.
To compound on what Chris was saying, one of the reasons I'm a shareholder is because of Palantir's stances and views. That is 100%. I've written about it. I wish they had Jocko Willink be the moderator for every conference call. I really do. He is phenomenal. Thank you for your service, Chris and Jocko and everybody else. But at the same time, the way Karp comes off when he says some of those things, it's a little distasteful to some people, and for some people, it can be a turnoff. And you don't know how anybody else thinks. Everybody has their own perception. He needs a real PR coach.
You know what you guys are sounding like? You guys are sounding like snowflakes, and I understand because of Chris's. Like, you guys are really getting upset at him for saying, "Hey, don't come here to work if you're not down to do what we do." Like, I love
the values and I love what it stands for. I just don't like how he comes off sometimes.
Perfect question from Corey. Why would you ever want misaligned employees? Why would you want someone at Audia that hates audio and doesn't support the company, doesn't even listen to podcasts? I probably wouldn't want them to work at my company because they probably don't care about the type of content that we're trying to get out into the world. Like, I don't see how this is an argument at all. But that's okay. We can agree to disagree. Chris, are you pooping, by the way? Because a lot of people in the chat think you're pooping. Are you pooping?
No, I was just washing my hands.
Okay. Got you. All right.
Earnings are around the corner. What do we think? Do we think they're going to strong, miss?
So February 16th. Look, Karp literally said.
Is it that late?
It's that late, February 16th. Yeah.
Did they change it for some reason? I thought it was the first week.
It's always been well, no, it's always been February. Last time was February 12th, so it's always been there. What was I about to say? Karp literally said, I can't talk too much about the Q4, but our U.S. commercial growth is not slowing down. That's what he said at Davos. So I would expect U.S. commercial to beat government if they ever get paid. Who knows? We'll see if that happens. In general, I mean, if we could hit the 1.9 billion, if we have a slight little beat on that, that would be awesome. I don't think we get to 2 billion. That would be a little bit too much, probably given everything that's happened. If we get to 2 billion, that would be a hell of a beat, but that's probably not going to happen. EPS is probably going to be bad because SPACs were bad, and we can talk about that. At least, Steve, did you like him being honest about the SPACs, or did you wish he said something different?
Yeah, I love that he was transparent about it and said it was a mistake. But you know what? It's a risk that he had every right to take, and I'm not mad that he took the risk. He had the cash on hand. It wasn't a huge amount of money, and there were some of those platforms that maybe it was too early for them, but they could still be a very large part of society in the future.
Chris, any thoughts on what he said about SPACs?
Whoever suggested the idea to him should be fired immediately. And my guess is that it was probably Sham.
I think actually, so I'll join the dark side with you guys. I think Karp is one of the most cockiest, arrogant businessmen on the planet, and that's why I like him. I think he willingly admitted that the SPACs were a mistake because he made the mistake. I think he and Peter and Sham in 2020 were like, we need to buy revenue, right? They decided to invest in these shitty companies. Now, I think there's a handful of them that I'll talk about in a second that I think are really good. I actually interviewed the CEO of Wejo today, Richard Barlow, and I think they're going to be a company that survives this. But I think Karp made that mistake himself. And because I made a video back in February, I found an old interview from Karp from 2021 where he
Not
talked
to
about...
cut you off, but taking ownership is very important, and the fact that the buck stops with him because he's the CEO, regardless of who made the decision, the buck ends with him.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that he took ownership either way.
Well, I agree, but I do think it was his mistake because there was a moment. Yeah, I should probably find this video. It's like a 30-second clip. There was a moment where he was talking about why they invested in the SPACs, and the argument was that they need to give their product different platforms, electric vehicles, electric airplanes, and robots, all this stuff, to see if the product can be like a case study in all those industries. And then if those companies become really big, they're built on top of Foundry. That was the whole law.
It was a bet that hasn't paid off. That's all.
Yeah, essentially.
I think it's funny that the one of the best capital allocators in the world, in Peter Thiel, couldn't guide this guy away from these SPACs, considering they were all burning cash and you were literally dumping more cash into them. And they had literally, some of them had little to no hopes of ever making any money. It's kind of, one, who did the due diligence? Two, who let Karp make this decision without challenging it? And technically speaking, this is why you need to have a board of directors that isn't just a bunch of cronies that you hired 20 years ago and have been self-promoting from inside. And any board member from an outside would have said, hey, this is a stupid strategy. Let's not go there. Let's do some more due diligence. But guess what? You got nothing but a bunch of yes men running around telling Alex Karp he's the smartest guy in the room, which may not necessarily be the case.
Okay, let's take a look at what Karp said about SPACs and how he justified it in 2021. I think this is some really, really, really good stuff. If you've been struggling to wrap your head around why they...
Should that change how we
Well, you know, the SPAC things as an example, I think there's a lot of attention on the SPACs because obviously we're investing in some of the most interesting creative companies in the world. And they're relying on Foundry to, get the business to a point where it can really be even more disruptive. But I'll tell you, the one of the coolest things, obviously, that it would be hard to notice externally is these people are going to push our product and help us understand, like, we can't rest on the fact that we're 5 years ahead of people, but tomorrow you're not 5 years ahead. Like, so it's like, and these people pushing our product and pushing what they're going to do. These are relatively small companies.
So first, two quick things there. Number one, because they had that in the context of Palantir.
But compared to, but they're really pushing us to work on, and by the way, it's super inspirational. It's like one of the things that's gotten us through the bad times. You were here for a lot of times that were not great, was our customers were so inspirational. The nice thing about some of these small companies is they're inspirational. They really push us to build things, to do things that we hadn't done before in ways we hadn't thought about, and to deliver value that is not, maybe not in a way that we had preconceived. So I think it's easy to focus on like the biggest customers, and some of our biggest customers are also some of the coolest customers in the world, no doubt. But a lot of these agile kind of custom customers we're interacting with, either because they're buying our software or because they're using our software, they're just under the gun.
Yeah.
I think Wejo, Sarcos Robotics, Black Sky, Lilium, and Tritium Charging. Those are the 5 I would put my money on. The rest of them, we don't know what happened.
Yeah, but Black Sky was also an investment to improve their software too, though.
Yes, their meta constellation stuff. Yep.
So among the SPACs, I agree that some of them were good, but some of them were just retarded. And I don't understand what the due diligence went into that, because especially though, like the Bird Global, the one with the scooter company.
That was bad. That was bad. That was bad.
You know, so my question is, who the hell was doing the due diligence on these SPAC deals to say, hey, let's look at our counterparty, make sure our counterparty can actually survive to the point where we actually get paid back, you know?
Yeah, David Sachs also invested in Bird Global, I think in like a Series A or Series B, and he didn't distribute the returns to the LPs when they went public. And now the stock has collapsed, and I don't know if his LPs actually got returns from that. I think Peter Thiel also. So I think that's why they kind of invested. It was like that's just my hypothetical thinking. That's the only way I can justify them investing in Birds, to be honest. Maybe Peter was involved in that, but yeah, I mean, he took ownership for SPACs, and SPACs collapsed. Okay, let's talk about what he said about the stock price. He was telling Andrew Ross Sorkin, he actually said something really cool. So he said when the stock price was $40, when they were worth $100 billion, he didn't think he was that good. And when the stock price is $6 now, worth $14 billion, he doesn't think he's that bad. How did you guys think about that dichotomy of him as a leader talking about where he thinks about the stock price in relationship to his performance as well?
I'll go with that first. I'll just be honest. That's one of those things that CEOs have really they have control over the stock price, but you can't fault them for that too much, because there are so many events that happen on the macro level where the stock price can go up and down, left and right. And that's something that Alex Karp did actually answer very correctly, saying, look, my job is to run the company, not look at the stock price every day. Because if you have a CEO who's looking at the stock and literally running the company just based off of the stock price, then you're pretty much messed up. Then you're not going to be investing for growth. You're not going to be investing for the next thing. You're going to be investing to try to get your stock price higher. And that eventually will lead to the collapse of the company operating, So, and I've seen that happen in so many cases where literally CEOs will be like, oh, well, you know what, let's just buy back shares to raise the stock price, so that everyone can feel good, without realizing that no, right now is not the time to be buying back shares. It should be to invest in the business so that it can survive another 5 years and possibly hit a point where they can hit an S curve and grow exponentially. So in that regard, I can't fault Alex Karp, and the response that he had was absolutely correct, saying that my job as CEO is not to watch the stock price. It's to make the company successful over the long term. Though I will say one thing. As an employee, I bet you a lot of them did not like that response, because a lot of employees that were hired in the last 2 years, they've been paid in a ton of stock. And to see half your net worth disappear in the matter of a couple of years, it's not exactly what it's.
But that's not only Palantir. That's every tech worker on the planet.
That's true. That's true.
Steve, your thoughts on what he had to say about the stock?
Yeah, I was happy with it. I didn't think there was anything bad with or wrong with what he said. And if he had said, oh, we should be valued where we were, I mean, he'd be talking like a crazy person. So I was fine with it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was fine with this. It was very interesting, him saying, I don't think I was that good. I don't think I was that bad. He does think, right, by saying, I don't think we're that bad. And he mentioned like they're growing U.S. commercial a lot better. I mean, he obviously thinks that they're undervalued, and he believes that the market will come to their senses at one point. But maybe the fair valuation is 20, and maybe that's a 5x from here, or 4x, whatever, and it might take a couple of years to get there. Yeah.
I would say it's like I said, it comes down to focus on the product, focus on your clients, focus on executing, and the stock price will fix itself. You in the short term, you can mechanically raise the price here and there by manipulating certain things on your balance sheet to get it to raise higher. but that doesn't mean jack squat
If
when
a
it comes to long
short-term
term.
fix, they'll get found
Yeah.
out by the markets.
Exactly.
He needs to drive revenue, to drive incremental growth, drive margins, and the free cash flow and profits will follow in the future. His biggest thing is he needs more deals, more customers, and more customers paying for more services.
How did you guys interpret the argument he made around Ukraine? So I mean, we all know the argument, but one thing he said in particular that I don't think I really heard him talk about before was that Ukraine asked for a lot of the software for free, and he was a big proponent of saying yes. Obviously, I think all of us with a heart can say yes, that's a good thing to do. It's also a good business decision in the long term. But do we think there is going to be money coming from Ukraine, or
Dude, that was the best decision they ever made, because where else are you going to be able to field test software that's made for the battlefield outside of a real war? Real wars, especially in these days, don't come around as often as people would like, especially against a major superpower. The fact that Ukraine can stand on its own thanks to software, and you have literally like officials from the Ukrainian military saying that, hey, this is the best thing since sliced bread. You get no better PR than that. Like I would say spending $1 billion and all the ads in the world couldn't give you that kind of PR. So in terms of, dude, I think Palantir should have. I don't know if the Ukrainians asked for it, but if it was me and I saw Russia invading Ukraine, I would have been the first person to pick up the phone and be like, hey, who do I talk to about getting this into your hands so that you guys can beat these assholes back? Because at the end of the day, you get very limited opportunities to field test things. And the fact that you're able to do it on someone else's dime is amazing. Because at the end of the day, the U.S. government is going to pay Palantir eventually. I just can't say when. And I'm sure that right now, every single country outside of just the U.S., who was their main market, is probably reaching out to Palantir saying, hey, you may deport Mexicans over the border, but guess what? You also helped defeat the Russians in Ukraine. Help us out. Let's get you guys working with our military so that we can make sure that the lethality of our armed forces are at the highest level.
Good point. Steve, your thoughts?
Comes down to how many companies can say that their software aided in that fashion. And it just shows why the U.S. government is so embedded in the Palantir software and other governments. And there aren't many companies that can do what they can do, if any, on that side.
I think
it was worth its weight in gold. Like Chris said, you could have spent $1 billion in advertising and it wouldn't have had the impact that those testimonials and that rhetoric had.
Also, this works to Palantir's advantage, because one of the things that, if you guys notice, most of the attacks on Palantir have come from liberal groups that have basically said Palantir is this spyware company that's bad for us, and they're doing this, they're doing that. Every one of them is eating crow right now, because guess what? All their liberal software companies that lean heavy to the left, none of them stepped up, right? So guess what? Now every time anyone criticizes Palantir saying, oh, Palantir's that spyware company, well, guess what? It's the same company that also helped fight the Russians and helped support Ukraine, right? Which is basically right now a cause that's being taken up by the left more than the right, from what I can tell. So I think this was great. I think a lot of the projects that Palantir's trying to highlight is almost like placating a little bit to the left, which has been the natural opponent of Palantir being adopted all over the place. So like right now, if you go to the NHS, there's already some protests with NHS people saying, oh no, Palantir is going to take our data and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Now you can throw this in their face and say, well, guess what? Is Palantir really that bad? They're the ones that actually help a democracy beat back a tyranny,
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the point of going to Davos. The World Economic Forum is seeming more and more like a interesting place to be.
Did you listen to All In yet?
I listened to a little bit of how they critiqued Davos being a grift. Do you agree with that, Stephen?
I don't know. I've never been there.
Davos is definitely a.
My invite got lost in the mail.
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, Davos is definitely a who's who of grifters, but it's the price you pay in order to be connected to the most connected people in the world. That's high level. That's just a sad reality that we all have to live in. A lot of the people that have real power over the world go to Davos, they shake each other's hands, and they make a lot of deals, and they talk whatever they have to talk to in front of the cameras, and then behind closed doors, they get together with their $2,500 a night hookers, and they do whatever they need to, and then they all celebrate together on their victories. That's what they do at Davos. I don't know if you read that article, but it's true. Literally, they fly hookers in to Davos during this economic forum.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, Dave Rubenstein was there. The who's who's of everyone is there, right? He's the CEO of Carlyle Group. He was the one interviewing Alex Karp, and it's like there's just a lot of people that are there that are like, why exactly are you all here at this one moment, and what are you all exactly going to talk about? And I assume it's about business, right? They're trying to make deals at the end of the day. It doesn't seem like it is a forum to try to solve the issues of humanity, or else they wouldn't be flying on private jets to go to Davos, right? But they have to fly on private jets because they're not going to fly 32F on United Airlines.
Yeah, it's all performative bullshit, dude. Everyone knows it. That's the joke, that everyone knows that it's all performative bullshit, the shit that they talk about. And at the end of the day, all they really care about is their bottom line and their bottom dollar, and then also the interest groups that are basically funding their campaigns. Like, who do you guys just outside of our conversation with Palantir, who do you guys think is the most powerful person on the planet?
The most powerful person on the planet. That's a good question. Put in the chat who you guys think. By the way, the chat results for did Karp mess up or not? It was I think it was 63%. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick. 63% no, 37 yes. Sorry, 60% no, 40% yes. Okay. Most powerful person on the planet. I first gut says the president of the United States, but above that, I would assume it's someone more rich than that. Like the Koch brothers. I know they're not the richest, but they do control a lot of industries, which gives them a lot of power, especially a lot of media entities as well. A George Soros type of figure. He would be I think he's more powerful than Joe Biden, I could argue.
The most powerful person on the planet is Larry Fink. Okay? Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, is the single most powerful person on the planet. Why? Because he can influence companies that are much, much larger than his, dance to his tune. A lot of companies, they have to dance according to what Larry Fink says. Otherwise, all that sweet, sweet BlackRock investment money, that's basically, and this is the sad part, where guys like Strongman Finance and all these other people, they're like, oh, you should just buy index funds. Just buy index funds. Well, guess what these index funds do? They allocate capital to companies based on some metric here and there, but they also decide who gets included in what percentage into their funds. And then guess what? If you don't do what they say, they'll pull their money. And guess what? Now you're stuck. Your share price will go down. So what does everyone do? They placate to these guys that are unelected. Like, no one elected Larry Fink to tell Americans how to think, but yet the money that we have in the market, he uses it to wield power. I mean, imagine the level of craziness that is. And it's freaking sad, bro. It's really sad.
What about Putin? You don't think Putin's more powerful than Fink?
No, Putin is barely surviving assassination attempts that are probably coming his way from his own guys. Like, I would say that Putin is probably one of the least powerful people on the planet right now. Because all the leverage that he had with Europe, with natural gas and everything else, that's gone out the door. His own generals and his own cronies are probably gunning for him. I mean, at this point, he's probably in the worst shape of his life in terms of real power. And also like this Ukraine defeat is right on his doorstep, man. So I don't know. Putin is nowhere near the most powerful person on the planet.
Steve, do you agree with that?
It's a loaded question. You're talking about influence. We're talking about power. Influence, I would agree with Chris, because you follow the money. Powerful? Nobody more powerful than the President of the United States at the end of the day.
The president of the United States got blocked on Twitter. How is that powerful?
Let's not even discuss why that happened. I don't want to get political.
No, but I'm just saying we don't have to get into the details. I'm just saying, like, you're talking about powerful, and then
He's
like,
in
a social
charge
media
of the United
company.
States military, every branch.
Yeah, but then he's not allowed to communicate with the entire world because of
Doesn't
social
matter.
media.
You want to talk about power? He's in charge of the United States military. Period.
Yeah, no, wrong. Absolutely wrong. He may be the commander in chief, but guess what? Any unlawful orders that violate the Constitution, he could be told to go fuck off. That's the whole point. That's why we have checks and balances, dude. The president of the United States,
Chris,
at the
you're
end of the
in
day,
you're
is
in the
not that
military.
powerful.
How many days can the American president wage war without Congress stepping in?
Every day, but guess what? The power of the Congress is also there to impeach him in a heartbeat if he does give any unlawful orders. That's the whole point.
But it would be after the fact.
Yeah, it's maybe after the fact,
It would
after
be
30
after the fact.
seconds. It'd be 30 seconds into it. Everyone on the planet, like, okay, there are multiple people on this planet that have the ability to create a hellscape of violence to the point where they can destroy the planet. Okay, there's plenty of people that can do that right now. The president of India could goddamn do it if he really wished to. The guy in China could do it. Putin could do it. The U.S. could do it. Even England, the little island off of Europe, could do it. Okay, real power isn't about who can throw nukes around, who can throw armies around. It's the people who can influence the thinking of the world. Like right now, that was one of the things that Elon did. That's probably that's the biggest gift to the planet, okay, and to the free thinking people of the world, which is let people say what they have to say, and they say it publicly, with the exception of maybe like a few things that are definitely like on the level of like crazy, like that you shouldn't be allowed to say. But for the most part, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, these are the things that are most important. And these people in Davos, all they're trying to do is figure out how to take that away. Because the minute that they can take away your freedom of thought and freedom of speech, it's over. They've won.
You know what's really interesting? I was listening to a take today, and we're going to end it in about 5 minutes. But people who control the media are also incredibly powerful. And the take that I heard today was a lot of right-wing media, like Prager University, Daily Wire, these types of media institutions. A lot of them are funded by billionaires, whether we like it or not. They do get a lot of funding from some of the bigger right-wing think tanks that were started by billionaires because they want to propagate sort of the ideas that they feel are important, which are more conservative in nature. And they fund some of the Ben Shapiro's and other likes of these people of the world to get those messages out there. And so people that actually fund the media and the media that has control, I mean, like George Soros, right? The amount of liberal stuff that he funds to get his ideas out there. These people are incredibly influential because when you can fund George Soros himself has made half of the United Kingdom not like Palantir. So when you can fund media organizations that constantly produce propaganda, left or right, that has tremendous amounts of influence. And, obviously leads to different political agendas. Both the left and right are propagated by billionaires. I agree. The one I was specifically talking about was the right because that was the take I was hearing about certain think tanks funding certain right-wing media companies, but it goes both ways as well. Okay. I think that's it for us. Anything else, Stephen, that you want to criticize ridiculously about Karp during the Davos?
Ridiculously.
I mean, I know
you're the oddball out on that one.
What do you say?
You're the oddball out on that one.
I am not the oddball out.
Amit. Just look at what you just had in your polls. Okay, 60% of people may have agreed that Alex Karp said the right thing, but 40% of people said that they were not impressed by that.
Actually, 61-39 now, by the way.
61. Okay, 39%. That is literally a little bit less than half of the people. Imagine the kind of businesses that you would lose.
That's because they heard your bullshit arguments and then they got convinced somehow.
So we were convinced. Congratulations, you're a terrible debater. I'm taking away your debating title.
Goodness gracious.
You are no longer You're no longer the master debater, bro. You lost your master debater
Let's
title.
do predictions for Q4 in 2022.
We'll do that next week. So, Steve, you got to come next week. Go ahead, Chris. You can do the TLDR. Go ahead.
They don't hit 500 million. Sorry, guys. Unless the government revenue comes in somehow, They don't hit 500 million. Too many companies are cutting back on discretionary spending.
So you don't think they're going to
And
bring 1.9 billion of rev?
no, I don't think. Well, I have to see what the total amount is, but in terms of the quarter, like Q4, I don't think that they're going to hit their. Like some people are saying, oh, they'll get to 500 million. I don't think they're going to get to 500 million. If you look at their month-over-month growth, it's literally anemic. It's crazy how little growth there was month to month, and this is before the SPAC, a lot of the SPAC blowups. So a lot of that revenue is not going to be coming in, and a lot of companies are probably going to slow down their spend. And I don't think too many people are going to be like researching Palantir out to do business at this time in this macro condition. So I know a lot of people are expecting 500 million plus. I don't think it happens, but there is one good caveat. The expectations have been set so low that even something minor positive could probably send the stock higher. So, yeah.
Well, they need 503 million to break 1.9 billion in total revenue, because right now in the first 3 quarters, they're at just about 1.4. They're at 1.397 billion.
So if they get, you said if they get below,
They need 503 million on revenue to break 1.9 billion.
okay. I think they're going to do it because the way Karp is talking about U.S. commercial growth not slowing down, it seems like that's what's going to pull them over the edge. I mean, every time they've asked him about demand and growth, he said the U.S. is the best to adapt, and he's had a smile on his face since September saying that the U.S. commercial business is growing.
I hope they do, but the numbers don't look good. Q1 was 446 million. Q2 was 473, so you saw a good jump there.
Q3 was 478.
Q3 was 477.9. So, you only went up 4.9 million quarter over quarter from Q2 to Q3.
In a recessionary year, I mean, like,
that's true.
If they get 499 million or 490 million, it's not the worst, but
no, it's not. We look, we definitely don't want it to be under 477.9 million. We want quarter over quarter growth.
Yeah.
But I mean, hopefully this is an anomaly year. All
right. That's it. It was a good weekly. Chris, thank you for still being here, even if you didn't have the internet. We appreciate it. It was a great discussion. Everyone's links are in the description. Let us know what you guys think after the video ends. You can comment below on if Karp messed up at Davos or if you thought it was a good sales pitch. That's pretty much it for us this week. Oh, by the way, a subscriber sent this to me yesterday. Look how cool.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, bro. His name is Ken Bohorsky. He has a shop in Detroit where he hand makes this stuff. And I think I'm going to put it right here. So it'll be in the videos all the time.
Yeah, you got to make sure it's in the videos.
Got to make sure it's in the videos. It's super cool. So thank you, Ken, for sending that to me. You gave me a second one. I raffled it off last night, and one of my subscribers won it. So
nice.
All right. That's it for us, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.